Cowboy Bebop is an anime that exists in this vacuum of space in between life and death. It's not a story based on a concept of a journey, but rather a collection of moments and genres pieced together to create something whole. The format renders the notion of progress rather meaningless, and our characters are seemingly stuck in time and space. In ancient Greek mythology, Styx is a deity and a river that forms the boundary between Earth and the underworld. Charon, the ferryman, ferries the souls of the dead from one place to the other, but he also requires payment for his duties. Without payment, the dead would essentially be stuck in this in between world. Which leads us to our three main protagonists in Cowboy Bebop: Spike, Faye, and Jet. In one way or another, our characters have all experienced the climaxes to their own respective stories. However, like the souls who can't pay the toll to enter the underworld, our characters are also metaphorically stranded. When we begin Cowboy Bebop, we meet each character as they're statically drifting through space, living their day-to-day life just trying to get by. The only recurring motif for the members of the Bebop is making enough money to have something to eat. But as we progress through the series, we learn that our three main characters each have a debt of their respective past that is yet to be settled. And so they're stuck, endlessly drifting, not quite alive, but not quite dead yet either. I've heard Cowboy Bebop described as a rather depressing show, which it is. But rather than just calling it depressing, it's a show that examines themes seldom talked about in traditional anime. Cowboy Bebop is an exploration of themes such as existentialism, nihilism, boredom, past and present, and life and death. Ideas and feelings that as we grow older we experience for ourselves. Each character then becomes relatable as we see a part of them in us. Spike is a man stuck in the past. Julia is the ex that he just can't seem to forget or move on from. He becomes consumed with pursuing his past at the mere mention of her name. Spike is best represented as the cowboy drifter of the series, the cool, calm, collected Marlboro man with a painful past. Faye Valentine is the byproduct of science and technology, a remnant of the past awoken in the future. Faye is in search of her very identity. Her very sense of self is non-existent because she has no memory of her past to define her present. Jet is the old-timey retired police officer, having lived a life thought to be fulfilling and meaningful only to find himself with nothing to show for. Each of our characters are not only a representation of the different genres we see in Cowboy Bebop, but they also come to represent the blues of humanity itself. Which then leads us to Edward. To say that Ed is simply the comic relief of the show would be a disservice. The way I see it, Ed is hope, personified. The youngest member of the Bebop crew, Edward is the only character that still has her life ahead of her, rather than behind her, which gives her this sweet ignorance of youth despite her incredibly vast intellect. It's not necessarily a saving grace by any means, but she comes to represent the future in stark contrast to our other characters who are stuck in the past. Towards the end of the series, Ed is the first member of the Bebop crew to depart alongside Ein. And as much as Ed becomes a key member of the crew, deep down they know, and we know, that Edward simply doesn't belong on that ship. Later it becomes evident that these relationships our characters have with each other are more temporary than permanent. On multiple occasions, Spike, Faye, and Jet leave the Bebop to chase after the ghosts of their past. Now, I won't go as far as to say that they don't care about each other, but it's evident towards the end of the series that these bonds aren't enough to help each other move on from their respective pasts, especially in the case of our main protagonist, Spike. And this is where Cowboy Bebop really sets itself apart from other animes. It shies away from these notions of overcoming obstacles through means such as friendship and believing in yourself. It shows us that life doesn't always work out the way you want it to, and that we are all inevitably carrying a weight on our shoulders that hinders our progress in life. It doesn't offer us any solutions to our problems, but rather embraces it and owns it. Our characters are fully aware of their problems, and on multiple occasions are given the solutions to those problems, but choose to take the road that leads backwards instead of forwards. Cowboy Bebop takes all these ideas and puts it together in a perfect 26 episode package. But in the end, we're left with this feeling of emptiness. The show ends pretty much where it began. Spike metaphorically dies at the beginning of the show and presumably actually dies confronting his past at the end. Jet and Faye are now the only remaining crew members of the Bebop. The show doesn't end with a happy ending, and yet that's the beauty of Cowboy Bebop. Sometimes life doesn't work out the way you want it to. Sometimes we get stuck in the past and we're never really able to let go and move on. Cowboy Bebop feels more like a collection of short stories rather than a complete story from start to finish. There is no origin arc or character arc for that matter. The majority of the episodes are self contained, and even our characters' backstories are exclusive only to that character. From eradicating a mutated lobster, to an homage of black cinema with magic mushrooms, and to meeting a brother who would do anything for his blind sister. Moments that are meaningless to the overall progression of our characters and story, but within this so called meaninglessness, we find moments of laughter, pain, happiness, and tragedy. Each episode then becomes more like a cherished memory. A memory that affects us, the viewer, more than our beloved characters. A memory that we can come back to and still find an emotional resonance with. But the funny thing about a memory is that a memory can only exist in the past. And for a show whose main premise is this notion of being stuck in time and space, Cowboy Bebop still today remains perfectly timeless. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And I'd really love to hear your thoughts about Cowboy Bebop down in the comment section below. Additionally, I try to stream every night on Twitch at around 7 p.m. Pacific time. So if you want to come there and give me your thoughts there, you just want to come and hang out, I'd love to have you there. I'll go ahead and leave a link to that down in the description below. Thanks again for coming. Thanks again for watching. Hopefully I'll see you sometime soon.